أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
I want you to imagine somebody with me. And I know this may seem like a video, right? So why follow along? But please actually do follow along with this. Imagine a man who is such a great person spiritually, mentally, physically, and socially. Imagine this man who has such spiritual connection with Allah. Like every moment of his life, he has taqwa, tawheed. He has such iman that he sees everything and he traces it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now imagine this man when he prays his salah, how much connection and deep focus he has in his salah, how much the world just goes away and he's all in on his salah, like he's actually standing in front of Allah. Imagine this man's ilm. Imagine how much he knows about Islam, how much deep wisdom and insight he has to this purpose of Islam. Imagine how much this man would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine every single moment he is able to trace anything back to Allah and he remembers him in every single moment thus. Imagine this man who has such ikram and he helps everyone around him. He sacrifices everything for that person and puts other people's right above himself. How wonderful that man would be to people. Imagine this man's ikhlas, how he does everything, Islam and outside of Islam, all straight for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All actions are geared for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake, whether it's something Islamic or not Islamic. Imagine this man sacrificing for Allah. Imagine how much this man sacrifices for Allah, first and foremost in himself with his nafs and shaitan, and how much he knows about these forces inside of his head so that he's able to counteract him. Imagine how much outside and externally he sacrifices for Allah, how much money he gives in the path of Allah, how much wealth and health he gives for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every aspect he sacrifices it for him. Now, aside from his spirituality, imagine his mentality. Imagine his mental health, how beautiful and how good and positive those thoughts must be. Imagine his aura, his character, how masculine this man is, how much he sacrifices and puts down the things that he knows aren't good for him. Imagine this man's intelligence and insight and wisdom in general knowledge. Imagine this man's knowledge in different things and how he's able to pursue these things and his skills that are refined thus. Imagine his focus and awareness of all the thoughts and emotions that's inside of his head. Imagine the control he has over these things. Aside from his mentality, imagine his physicality. Imagine himself internally. How good his diet must be. How good his body, his strength. Imagine this man's physique. How great it must look. How sculpted it is. Imagine how much strength he has. How much pulling power, pushing power he's able to do above everyone else that he knows and above everyone else that's around him. Imagine his outside, how good he takes care of his hygiene and himself, how his fashion sense is, how good he looks, how he takes care of his smell, he takes care of all the other aspects like his hair, his skin, all these other things. Imagine how physically optimized this man must be and how physically of a specimen this guy would be. Now, aside from his physicality, and I know it sounds like I'm just going more and more and more, but trust me, I'll end soon. Imagine how socially successful he is. Imagine this man's sorts of income, how much wealth he's attained. Imagine his mindset for business and entrepreneurship. Imagine his business. Imagine how hard he would work for that business and how hard he has worked for that business. Imagine the millions of dollars in this man's account sitting there and he still sacrifices those for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake, but he has wealth. And imagine his possessions. Imagine how much good possessions he has, like his car, his house, etc. And then finally, imagine this man's social life, how he loves and has deep fulfilling relationships with the people around him. Imagine his wife, how beautiful the relationship between them must be. Imagine how he raises his children. Imagine how he takes care and loves his parents and his siblings and his family and the rest of the world and his friends. Imagine this man's social circle, his bros, if you will. Imagine the bros that are around him, the type of mindset and the successful mindset that they have. Imagine how they work together in competition so that they drive each other up more than it ever would individually. For a good 4 or 5 minutes right now, I have been talking to you about this man, and try really, like, I know it's just a video, I know it's so cliche, everyone says imagine this, imagine that, but please now imagine this man as you. Imagine these aspects that I just mentioned to you, spiritually, mentally, physically, and socially. Imagine this dream man that you have, this dream masculine, Islamic, strong male that you want to aspire to be. Imagine him as you. Imagine yourself optimized in all of these things. How wonderful it would be. How would you feel if you were this man? How would you think? What would you believe? How much more optimism would you have? How much more opportunities? How much more freedom? The vibrancy of life. How much more adventure would you have? These things that, we've sort of overlooked because it's whatever, right? We want comfort and we want all these other things. But imagine like the vibrancy. Imagine experiencing adventure, excitement. But at the same time, you experience peace and fulfillment. All while optimizing this and doing any of this for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine being happy that you're ready to meet Him. That your life has been lived. That you actually lived life. That you experienced. That you went on adventures. I know I'm saying these terms so many times, but these are the things that matter. Imagine this man as you, a man of such degree of human experience. Imagine that, such a degree of human. This idea of this man that you've just imagined, it may seem unrealistic, and obviously so. How much, different things would have to go right. You can't deny that it is possible. That one day you can look in the mirror and see such a man yourself. This isn't meant to be motivating. I promise you, this is simply information that I'm conveying to you. And if you want to take it, you can take it, bro. You can change. Allah has given us this ability, this very crucial ability of consciousness that we can change. We can be different. We don't have to be the same. When we look at the Prophet and the Sahabas, they're literally the perfect example of this. They were optimized in all of these things, and they did so on such a level that you and I's potential for spiritual, mental, physical, and social success is never going to reach their level. Now imagine a man, the man that I just told you to imagine. Imagine your dream self, right? That I just told you in the first portion of this video. He's not even a fraction of what the Sahabas were. The Sahabas were spiritually to such a level. They were there when the Prophet was there. Of course they would have such a spiritual level. This is a gigantic and behemoth level of spirituality. And their mentality followed thus. They had such a mentality. They were there in the crucible when Islam was still at its lowest, and they had to fight and they had to be strong enough to bear with that. Physically, they fought through wars and did sacrifice with their bodies. They were such Sahabi like Khalid ibn al-Walid radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who had a scar on each part of his body. And socially, they were rich. Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhu was one of he still has a bank account today in Saudi. 1,400 years has passed and he still has wealth that he gives to that people give on his behalf to other people. He was in the very affluent millionaire, billionaire status. You get the point. He was an entrepreneur as well. And imagine how that shaped their social life. So if you want to attain this level, I highly recommend you join the Muslim Amelioration, which is literally for this purpose. Muslim Amelioration includes the chart that of all the aspects that I've just mentioned to you. And there's a Discord link in the Discord link in the description that will take you to the chart, as well as a community of men who are dedicated for this purpose. I would recommend you subscribe and like this channel so that you get notified for it as well. And with that, Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.